But isn't the point of art less what people put into it and more what people get out of it?
Is that the point of art?
I'm lost. I'm lost in the dark, drowning. I'm drowning. I'm drowning. No way out. There's no way out. Sinking deeper, deeper, deeper. This is hell. I'm in hell. I died. I wish I was dead. Let me die. I just want to sleep. Please. Let me sleep. I'm so tired. I just want to go home. I've written so much. I write. And I write. There's nothing left. It's all gone. I don't know how to write. All the words are gone. There's no more words. Where did they go? Did I eat the words? I don't recognize these words anymore. Are the words moving? Oh, this is familiar. Why is this familiar? I've been here before. Have I said this before? I've read this somewhere. Where am I? Who am I? Alan Wake. Wake? That's a strange name, eh? Wake? That sounds like a character's name. I write that name up? I make that name up? I don't want to be a character. I don't want to be in the story. Just write me out of this story. Ram these words down your throat. Make you choke on these words. Oh, I know the words. Secret words. You can't take the words. I eat the words. These are my words. Stop using the words. The words. The cult of the word. This isn't your story. It never was your story. The story is a monster. The story will eat you alive. The darkness is coming. The darkness inside. This is my story. You're in my story. Get out of my story. You are a character in my story. You can't stop the story. This story will go on forever. There's no escape. You will never escape. You will drown here. You're stuck in a loop. You don't have a clue. You're lost. You lost the plot. I'll show you.
If you ask someone to describe their depression for you, they'll probably call it a negative cycle. Its source doesn't matter. Maybe because of financial problems, health issues, fractured mind, or something physical. Even it could be losing someone or something. Doesn't matter. All that matters is that right now you are not feeling fine. You are not okay. And this is affecting your relationships, your work, and your whole daily life in general. You cannot focus. Your mind is in a constant battle against you. And this is not a battle you can win. You lose. And at the bottom of that cycle, you do something stupid. Mostly substance abuse. Or maybe a lesser kind of addiction, like drinking, binge eating, watching adult films. Doesn't matter. The point is that you are tired of your negative mind. You don't want to feel bad anymore, so you'll do anything just to push it down. An addiction is great to keep your mind off of everything in life, and honestly, for a few moments, it feels great. There is one last part to this cycle though. Once the fun is over, you are forced to deal with the after effects of your addiction, the hangover, headaches, the guilt and shame, and at the end, promising yourself that you're never gonna do it again. But you will, because now we are at the point that the loop starts again. Your problems haven't been solved yet. Or maybe they're gone and given their place to a newer and bigger ones. So this loop continues. You're drowning. There's no escape. You can never escape. You are trapped in this dark place forever. There is no way out. But there is one thing that those who believe depression is a loop got wrong. It's not a loop, it's a spiral. Welcome, travelers, to the Midnight Mission. I am Mr.Pryor, and tonight's mission is about Alan Wake's journey into the dark place and how it's a metaphor for depression and what we can learn from it. In my opinion, Alan Wake was trapped in the darkness way before the start of the first game. After the beginning of his writer's block and his nightmares, he was mentally trapped in this place and tried to escape from it by partying and drinking and wasting himself for 2 years. This was the start of his downfall and depression. Instead of confronting his nightmares, he kept running away from them. And that's what most of us do when we don't want to face reality. We instead turn to drugs, sex, parties, or anything that can shut down our brain for a few moments. And then we sleep, and after waking up, maybe reflect on what we have already done and feel bad about ourselves. But then we do this cycle again and again anyway. This is what happened to Alan, and it made him angry and more aggressive. In this state, we start not only to hurt ourselves, but also the people around us, whom we love and care about so much. As a loving wife who is desperate to help her husband, Alice finds a doctor who specializes in helping artists in a little town called Bright Falls and convinces Alan to go on a little vacation to this town. away from big cities and everything to maybe help him ease off of his mind a little. But doesn't tell him that she actually wants to get him to see a therapist because Alan is very stubborn and always refuses getting help from others, which is one of the very, very bad traits of someone with depression. It's tough, and I understand how difficult it can be to label yourself as depressed or someone with mental illness. And some may even have a fear of what others could say about them or call them, or even if it's not about what others think, they don't want to accept and label themselves as depressed or mentally ill. You tell yourself, I'm not crazy, I'm not a psycho, I don't need therapists, I absolutely don't need pills. Those are for crazy people. I'm fine, I'm just a little tired, and I've been drinking a little. That's all. I can stop whenever I want to. Believe me, I've been there too. I've been denial at first, and my doctor said that this isn't normal and I have to take pills. It is hard to accept that you have a problem in the first place, but if you keep refusing to get help and even denying the existence of the problem in the first place, you'll end up hurting yourself, or worse, you'll end up hurting others, and that's what Alan did. Don't come at me telling me Dr. Emil tricked Alice into dragging Alan there, or Barbara, aka Dark Presence, used Alan to bring itself back from the lake to the real world. I played the game, I know the story, but these are just the details, things that make this story interesting, fun, and thrilling. But when you go beyond that and try to see the metaphors, you can see what these characters represent. The Dark Presence is just Alan's darkness that is destroying everybody. He loses the love of her life due to his arrogance and stubbornness, but still refuses to accept that. So in a desperate attempt, he writes a story to bring her back again, but plays with the life of everybody in that town. Barbara, the Dark Presence as his editor, influences him to make the story darker, twisted, and more cruel, to give her more power. So many people died and turned into darkness because Alan wrote it that way. He used everybody in that town just to bring her wife back. It's like you have a problem, but don't know or don't see that you have a problem. But in reality, you don't want to accept that you have a problem. And you keep refusing everyone's help until you hurt them all, or get tired of you and leave you, or sometimes both. And again, instead of addressing the core of your issues, you start doing unnecessary things to win them back. Or maybe keep doing what you're doing even harder, not caring about the outcomes of your actions and what it does to others. Again, you could say Alan was possessed by Barbara, and that's why the story became so dark and took so many victims, and we see him in those TV live action sections that he tries to fight back against her. But I already told you to look beyond the surface level and the story details. Those sections can be seen as battles between the frustrated, angry, and vengeful side of Alan against his conscience, that little part of him that still doesn't want to hurt others and just wants to fix his own mistakes. What I found beautiful and very powerful is that after almost finishing the story and the battles in his mind, he understands that the story is only giving power to the darkness and will not bring back Alice. So for the first time in his life, he asks someone else's help because he realizes he can't win this fight alone. That was his first step into saving himself. Another next best move is that he steps out of his comfort zone and becomes the protagonist of his own story. It's interesting to know that the Departure's first draft was not about Alan at all, and I'm kind of curious to know how was that story without Alan. Anyway, he inserts himself into the story. He became the champion of light and finally starts to take some responsibility. After a lot of crazy adventures, he understands that in order to save Alice, to fix everything, he has to make the ultimate sacrifice. Alan must give himself to the darkness to be able to bring back Alice. I try to understand what that could mean, and the best thing I can come up with is that Alan finally decides to leave Alice and take her out of his dark influence, and instead dives deep into his own darkness without denial and face all of them head on. It's the only way to keep others away from harm, but that journey will not be easy, as we see a little part of it in the next 2 additional DLC episodes. That his darkness is so vast that it's trying to keep consuming him and break him down. A place full of self-shame and insecurities that does not want him to live and just keeps pushing him deeper and deeper. This part is also very little. We may sometimes cut our ties with others to keep them away from the harm that we may bring to them. So then we could be by ourselves and dive deep into our minds trying to fix ourselves. But our darkness is more powerful than we imagine, and it starts to consume us. It's good to realize and accept that you have a problem, but from what I experienced, I can assure you that you can't fight that darkness all by yourself. You need help and support if you want to have any chance in saving yourself. And that's where we get to Alan Wake 2.
Wake says a story will change reality around us.
After 13 years of writing and rewriting so many failed drafts to try to escape the darkness, Alan understands that he needs a new hero. Someone to help him escape and fight back against darkness. A mother. Someone with passion towards others. Someone full of innocence. Saga Anderson. Thank you for watching to this point of the video. I know many people won't. Tell me about your experience and understanding of the first Alan Wake. Do you agree with my takes, or you have something else in mind? Anyway, I see you on the next mission, and until then, have a safe night.